Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a Books Beside My Bed video for you where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading, and I have to say this is feeling a little bit odd because I don't think I've actually sat down and filmed in my usual way here in my apartment. That's not been a vlog or an off-the-hand video in weeks. So getting up this morning and getting organised to do all of this, there's a bit of a relearning curve, which is kind of wild. But we are here to talk about the books that I have read in the last week. This is the 4th week of the Australian readathon. There's still technically a couple of days left of July for the readathon, and I will probably still pick up an Australian author here or there, but I am essentially calling the Australian readathon closed. I'm pretty sure I've hit everything multiple times, so on the bingo board, so yay. I do have a few review titles, including quite a few kids and middle fiction titles to talk about this week, so we're going to pop those all at the start, and then I'll go through the adult reads that I read in the past week. So starting off with Backyard Tennis by Merrison and illustrated by Samantha Campbell. This came through to me from Hachette. It is published by Lothian, which is an imprint of Hachette. It was a really fun story. I have read and loved a lot of Merrison's work in the past, and this picture book is great. It starts out as a child and their mother playing tennis in the backyard. Mum absolutely loves tennis and, you know, is trying to get their child involved. And then as they start playing, a lot of the neighbourhood kids also come and go, oh, what are you doing? And they say, we're playing tennis, come and join us. And so it's about the whole community coming together to play a game. They start out in the backyard, they progress to playing in the court because there's so many people. And it's just a really fun celebration of community coming together and enjoying the sports that you love. And Carl has another book called Backyard Footy, which I also have. So this is just part of that same series about sports and community, and I think it's really, really fun. And the illustrations are just beautiful and bright and inviting, and it's a really fun book. So thank you to the publisher for sending me that. Then from Allen and Unwin, I have a few books. I've read 2 of them. I still have another 2 that I need to pick up in the next week or so. There is Read at Your Own Risk by Remy. Remy has written quite a few and illustrated quite a few graphic novels that I really love, and I wasn't sure whether this was a graphic novel or whether it was a book. This one is kind of in the style of Diary of a Wimpy Kid and all of that, where you've got text and a lot of illustrations and bits and pieces. It's actually the Journal of Hannah. This one is middle fiction, but I would probably target sort of older middle fiction because Hannah and her friends accidentally summon evil in their school's library. And it follows Hannah around, and all sorts of disturbing and creepy things begin happening to Hannah because she may or may not be responsible, but the evil is hanging around her, and it may or may not have a happy ending. It is a story about a character being haunted. It's about it having happened before and not having all of the knowledge and, you know, messing around with things that you don't necessarily understand. So this is a perfect one for October and spooky season. But yes, I would pick the audience because I know plenty of kids who would absolutely love to have such a creepy, disturbing kind of book, and plenty of kids who would be absolutely terrified by it. So you've got to pick your audience. And then also from Allen and Unwin, there is My Phone Reading My Mind? The Real Facts About Artificial Intelligence by Dr. Matt Agnew. I read Matt Agnew's first non-fiction book, which was all about space, I'm pretty sure. And he is an Australian researcher and scientist who has studied it across a range of different topics, and most recently in artificial intelligence. It's a really interesting book that explores AI and its impact on society, but also how historically artificial intelligence has grown and how we have used it. And it also talks about the ethics of artificial intelligence in a really simple way for kids, which I thought was great. For anyone who says that kids nonfiction is not nonfiction, I hope there's no one out there like that, because honestly, I found this really, really interesting, and it gave me a lot of jumping off points for wanting to find out more information about certain things. But I thought it was really interesting how he talked about it and how he related it to situations that kids would be familiar with. There is a lot of text, but it's also broken up with, you know, explanations of any specific vocab. There's little illustrations, there's little side bits of information that relate to the main text. Like, it was really well put together and very, very easy to read. So I was really glad that I got the chance to pick it up. So thank you to Allen and Unwin for those titles. And then one middle fiction title that I read that wasn't a review title was Bindi by Kirli Saunders. This is a middle fiction verse novel, and it is the story of Bindi, who starts out her new year like any other. It's a really normal year. She's back at school, hockey has started, she doesn't really want to do maths, but she's kind of just living her life with her family and her friends. It also explores climate change and drought, particularly in Australia, and the impact of bushfires on communities. So Bindi and her family are caught up in a massive bushfire, and it has huge implications for them and their entire community. And it's about healing and culture and community, and it's just beautiful. Bindi is just a really wonderful character to explore, and through the entire book she's also helping to care for a baby black cockatoo that has been injured, and that in itself has messages for her, even as her family are dealing with some really truly catastrophic effects of bushfires here in Australia. So this has been nominated and won many awards, and I can't believe that it took me this long to read it, but it is absolutely stunning, and there are beautiful little illustrations through the text as well. Highly recommend it. All right, then getting into everything else that I read in the adult readership category. The first book was Eros by Cantrell, and I have literally no notes about this. I read it while I was on my weekend away watching the hockey. It is a short sci-fi romance novella, and honestly it left me very underwhelmed, so I didn't even bother to go back and get any notes on it. It is about a woman who is a hairdresser, and her mother is bugging her about not being married and having kids. So straight away I'm just like, why is that in a book? I probably should have DNF'd at that point, but I didn't because I wasn't reading anything else. She ends up finding out about this, dating agency through one of the clients from the hairdressing salon, and she's matched with, you guessed it, an alien from another planet. And he doesn't speak English yet. He's still learning how to communicate effectively in English. But in order for this, fake arrangement to work, they have to be married. And so they get married. Like, if you just want a book that has a lot of sex on page, like, you can go for this one. I do like a little bit more plot, particularly if it's not a completely off the walls bonkers kind of book. But yes, this is why I'm reminded why I don't read a lot of the sci-fi romance mail order bride husband trope, just because it annoys me. Then I read Little Birdies by Sylvia Morrow, I think, and this one is another paranormal romance. It is about a woman who falls for two shifters, a crow shifter and a hummingbird shifter, who are already a fated pair, but she is their fated third. And this one was just underwhelming as well. And to be honest, I think I own an earlier version of this novella, and I think there is a newer one, but I'm not actually tempted to go back and read the more recent version of it, because I just wasn't all that interested, which is disappointing because I wanted to be. Thankfully, after that, I did read a book that I really enjoyed, and it's probably one of my favorite books of the month, and that's Follow Me to the Yew Tree by Desiree and Niccolli. And I know that Robin has talked about it before, Heather has mentioned it before. I just decided to pick it up, and I had a great time with it. It is a paranormal fantasy-ish romance. It is based in our world, maybe a little bit alternate. It involves a lot of folklore. And we have our FMC Irene, who comes across this man called Ilan, who she sees and has this vision of the fact that he could be a potential partner for her. She can see when people are fated to die. She's a banshee. She works for death, and she's really upset that, she's finally seen her potential partner, but she's also seen that he is likely to die. And so she accompanies him as he's traveling home, and the two become close, and we find out that he has a chronic illness. He has ulcerative colitis, and that's something that causes him great discomfort, great pain, and is really difficult for him to live with. He's a returned soldier, and they spend this time together learning about each other and falling for one another. There is a lot of discussions around grief. There is a brief mention of suicidal ideation, so be aware of that going into it. There is discussions around bodily autonomy and decision making. Like, their relationship is it's lovely. Like, when you read it, like, you'll get it. It's just really lovely, and was probably one of my favorite reads of the week. I also read Lock 'Em Down by Gina, Azzi, which is the fourth book in the Bang Brothers hockey series, which is interconnected standalone hockey romances that fit into this shared universe by multiple authors, but also into those authors' other hockey series. And some of them I will be checking out because I am intrigued. Anyway, so this one is about Leaf and Cammy, who meet in Vegas. They don't realize that they have a connection that is currently unknown to them. Anyway, they meet in Vegas. They have a really great night. They connect. Cammy has always been considered the wild child of her family. Leaf has kind of been a bit of a playboy, but is, determined to settle down. He's seen his brothers start to settle down. And the two, they have this instant chemistry, and they have a great night together, and they get married in Vegas. And then obviously when they wake up in the morning, Cammy, you know, disappears. And so Leaf is rather annoyed. But as it turns out, they're both living in the same city. I can't remember where it is. But Cammy has just moved there. Her mum has come to town to help her move. And Leaf's mum has come to town to spend some time with him. As it turns out, their mums are friends and they end up at this lunch date together. They have to confess that they already know each other, and they have to confess eventually that they're technically married. And it is about them figuring out whether, one, to stay married. Leaf really wants to give it a shot. He is determined to give Cammy time to get to know him and to see if it's something that they want to continue. When it's done right, a waking up married in Vegas story can be really fun, and a fake marriage-ish trope is also really fun. And I kind of liked how they sorted it out. And Leaf is just an absolute cinnamon roll of a hero. Like he's been one of my favorites from the entire series, I have to admit. So I enjoyed this one. I should say he's one of my favorites because when he gets married, he tells people, like he goes to people, he talks to his captain, he talks to his team captain, he talks to some close confidants about what happened. And they're all kind of like, what do you mean you got married? And what do you mean you want to make it succeed? But he has a supportive friendship group and he talks things through. And because Cammy's new in town, he tries to help her also find people to connect with so that she's not alone and so that he's not her only point of contact, which I also appreciate. All right, and then the last book that I read this week, and I'm going to totally butcher this title, but bear with me. Bila Yarrudhanggalangdhuray, I think. I have to break it down into syllables because it's really long. It translates to River of Dreams in the Wiradjuri language of the Indigenous people of I think it's New South Wales. So yes, please excuse my pronunciation. And this is a book by Dr. Anita Heiss. It is a book that I used to own a physical copy of, and then I wasn't picking it up, and I found the audiobook for it. So this actually helped me to get through it. It is a historical story. There is a romance in it, but it is definitely more a historical fiction than it is a romance. We follow Wagadani, who is a Indigenous woman. It's post-colonization historical, and she works at the home of one of the local white families. And at the very start of the book, there is a flood in Gundagai, and the white family, not wanting to know or learn about the area that they live in, doesn't believe that there would ever be floods there. And so they're taken unawares, and the parents of the family that live on this property are killed by the flood. And she and the two surviving sons of that family survive. One hates the Indigenous people. The other, we the reader know that probably has designs on her. It's actually her father that helps save a lot of the local townspeople. And then we kind of move forward, and the eldest son is now in charge of the property. He ends up meeting an English woman, a Quaker, who he ends up marrying, and she befriends. And while she has plans to fight for the rights of the Indigenous people, she's also caught up in her marriage and she wants to have a child. And it's kind of that we want to help in the way that white people want to help without actually listening. And then her husband decides that they're going to move, and they take Wagadani with them. And she doesn't want to go. She doesn't want to be taken from her family. Family is really important in Indigenous culture, being with your people, being on your country. But she's forced to go. And this is heartbreaking for her. And everyone thinks it's going to be good for her. She's going to be part of society, blah, blah, blah. And it's not. It's not that at all. She's incredibly homesick. And there she meets a stockman who is working on the property that her masters now own, and his name is Yindimara, and the two of them eventually fall in love and they have children. And it is the interplay of the relationship of all of these characters over time, while also commenting on the way that white people treat the Indigenous population. There are a lot of content warnings in here. There is someone who is very obviously, you know, one step away from assaulting Wagadani, and you have this relationship between the two women that is really questionable at times. And then you have the way that the Indigenous population is treated, and there is also death of children mentioned in the story. So it's a hard-hitting book. I'm glad that I finally read it. I will probably need a break from books like this for like another year, because they're not really my kind of story. Like, I enjoyed it for what it was. It's not going to be a new favorite just because it's not sitting in my genre field. But yeah, I'm glad I finally picked it up, and I'm glad that I had the audio to listen to it, because it was a really great way to actually pick it up. I'm more likely to pick up a different genre on audio, and it works really well for me. So yes, that is what I have read this week. In the comments, I'd love to know if you have read any of these books. If you did participate in the Australian readathon, what did you read? Was there a new favourite in there for you, or was there just something that that really intrigued you, feel free to let me know down below. If you want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave a feather emoji down below. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you're on the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye everyone.